Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, book proposal strategist, author, podcaster, all of the things, author of your goal guide and 52 secrets for goal setting and goal getting, because you can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. Every week, I bring together some of my people to dive into a topic, and this is going to be a fun one. Well, they're all fun, but basically, this is the Redhead edition of GoalChat, which if you're watching the video, you can tell. If you're listening, it'll just come out through the conversation. But Chrissy Bernal and I, after we met a few months ago, I'm like, we need to do a redheaded show because we can. And I looked and I saw that May 26th is National Redhead Day, which is great, except for Memorial Day is May 25th. So we're just going to call it Redheaded Month. I'm sure it's not a thing, but it is now. But I brought together some of my favorite redheads. You might be watching this as GoalChat Live. You might be watching the replay, GoalChat Live. You might be watching the replay, or you might be listening to us as GoalChat on the Marketing Podcast Network. No matter how you found us, we're so glad you're here. Chatting about, because I think being a redhead is a state of mind. And like I said, I brought together some of my amazing fiery friends. We have with us today Chrissy Bernal, Jessup, and Tamara Krinsky. I knew if I asked you, I would pronounce it wrong. And I've known Lee for years because not everybody knows this, but I freelanced for Script Magazine in the early uh-ohs. That's how long we've known each other. Tamara and I were on a panel a little over a year ago, and we're like, oh, yeah, let's be in touch. That was a year and a half ago. So I'm glad we've got this excuse to chit-chat. And I met Chrissy just a few months ago through my co-author of Active Grandparenting, Kristen Cofield. And I'm like, yes, I feel like it's like redheads unite. Let's share our superpower. But before we dive in, I would love for you all to introduce yourself better, because right now, all anybody knows is that you're awesome, which is true, but I have a feeling we're missing out. So let's start with you, Chrissy. Who are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. And, I have to say, us choosing to make it an entire month and choosing to do it on this day instead of the actual Redhead Day is very redhead of us. So making our own rules, totally on brand. So I'm Chrissy Bernal. I'm out of the Houston, Texas area. And many ambitious women see that there's a visibility and authority gap. They've got the authority, but not enough people know about it. And so we bridge the gap at my agency by using strategic PR, brand architecture, and marketing. And I will go on about it later, but I got my start because my twins went viral 17 years ago, before viral was a term, and I learned really fast how to build a brand on the fly and use media properly.
And they are also redheads.
They are, with very long hair. We all have hair down to our butts.
And I was going to say, it's very redhead of us, but I'm also Leo, and I'm very Leo, and we love center stage. So it's also very Leo of us to have an entire holiday, or to make up a holidays all for ourselves. So really glad you are here. Let us bring Lee over to say hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It was great. We've known each other for decades, and then ran into each other in March at a screenwriting event, because yes, in LA, people do leave the house. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a perfect opportunity to get you on GoalChat. So please share who you are, because I know, but not everybody does.
I'm a recovered screenwriter, now a business of screenwriting professor and career coach for screenwriters. I live in LA, 2 kids, 2 dogs, parents upstairs, and my wonderful husband, deeply entrenched in the entertainment industry, have never known another one. So for good or bad, I speak industry and nothing else. But that's about it. We'll keep it short and simple.
Excellent. Well, because normally at this point, I'll say something like, what does it mean to be a redhead? But we're going to go into that. So let us bring Tamara over to say hello.
Oh, do I need to just, I was waiting for the square to go over, but I actually have to start speaking for that to happen. Hey, everyone, I'm Tamara Krinsky, and I am a TV host and a writer and a performer and speaker coach. And probably the easiest way to think about what I do is that it pretty much all circulates around live events, whether that's a red carpet that I'm hosting or a show that I'm taping or corporate events where I'm working with speakers and getting them to be their best selves on stage. So I really, in this day and age, love the energy that comes when we are able to get together in rooms. I'm so grateful for this kind of interface that allows me to meet new people and brings us together through screens. But I'm also a firm believer in that sometimes we just need to get in the same room together, whether that's to watch something, whether that's to laugh together, whether that's to learn something new. So that's kind of where the heart of my work sits. And again, we can get more into that later. As far as redheaded stuff goes, all I'll say for now is that I live in LA with my daughter and my husband, also in entertainment. So similarly to you, that's just where our lives kind of sit. But I was born in Jersey, and the saying is true. You can take the girl out of Jersey, but you cannot take the Jersey out of the girl. And any redhead from Jersey knows this. So.
Amazing. And you and I actually met in real life because we were on a panel together. Like I said, it was the day 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting came out. So I remember it was January 28th, 2025, and just a great opportunity, again, to meet people in real life. And Jonathan London, who was also on the panel, was on a couple weeks ago when we were doing sci-fi. So I frequently say GoalChat is my favorite networking thing because it's a great opportunity to catch up with old friends and get to know new friends better. And we've got that whole mixture today. So go team us. I don't know who I'm getting the feedback from, but maybe mute when you're not talking. I know, and Tamara asked that before, and I'm like, oh, we're totally fine, except I don't know where the feedback's coming from. Anyway, what I would love to start with is, what does it mean? What does it mean to be a redhead? Because as one, I just feel like, as a redhead and a Leo, I feel like it's just part of our spirit, but I'd love to know what that actually means for each of you. Tamara, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So I guess maybe the place to start is my redhead origin story, which is I actually took a departure from being a redhead for a while. When I was a kid, I used to go to summer camp, and I'm a strawberry redhead. And so when I was at camp, everybody wanted to be a blonde, and there was a product called Sun-In, which was basically spray bleach in a bottle, and you were supposed to just do like a little spray of it every day, and it was heat activated, and by the end of the summer you'd have gorgeous blonde highlights. Well, when you're already a strawberry redhead, all it does is turn your hair bright orange. Not a good look. So I came home that summer. My mom immediately looked at me and said, I'm taking you to Toby, who was her hairstylist at the time. And he turned me into a blonde, which I enjoyed for a very long time. But I think where this ties back to what does it mean to be a redhead? I think there, especially in Hollywood, when you're a performer or you're in front of the camera, there are sort of some, or at least used to be some expectations of what it meant to be a blonde. It was back when there were still a lot of stereotypes about, the blonde was the hot girl and the brunette was the mysterious one or the best friend, and the redhead was like the sassy sidekick. And I always felt like I fit more into sassy sidekick, even though all of those elements are part of each of us. And so at a certain point, I decided, you know what? I'm ready to go back to my natural color. But I've been blonde for so long, I didn't know what it was anymore. So I went to my person and I was like, let's figure it out. And originally we made me a lot darker because we thought that it was a darker auburn. And then as we grew, and I was like, oh no, here I am. So that's a bit of part of the fun of my redhead origin story.
Okay, so to be redhead is to be sassy and embrace your sassiness.
I mean, I think that's a stereotype, and I think that's what it used to be. I think gosh, I don't want to blow our episode apart, but I also
oh no, please.
I guess I've tried really hard to not to not make what happens like externally determine all the things.
But what I'm saying is the through line between all of the redheads here today is that we are sassy, we are smart, we are full of energy, but that's on the inside as well as on the outside.
Yeah, I think that's a good.
I'd love to jump in and add, I think there's a level of confidence that one has to have and it has to be an embodied confidence in order to be a redhead, because you're going to stick out no matter where you go.
True.
And people are going to notice you and they're going to remember you. Oh, you're the redhead. Or random men will pop. I had this one old man come to me at a garden center and he said, we have a redhead in our family too. I was like, cool. So just, a level of confidence must accompany the hair color.
Okay. Anything to add, Lee?
Sure. Listen, I think that as redheads, and I think that as women, and I think that also as you age and grow up, I hope that us redheads carry less apology for who we are and what we are and step into it, because you really don't have a choice. I mean, my redhead origin story was that I was born a redhead and I was the only one in my family. And back in the day, I was seen in the elevator with all the babies that were being moved from one area to the other. And everybody decided that the one that couldn't be their family, all of my relatives were me, because I was the redhead. But I think that the reality is that you are the one who sometimes gets pointed out. And hopefully the redhead of it all makes us step into the light of it and stop apologizing for who we are and own who we are. At least that's what I hope for us.
I love it. Did you have an origin story to share, Chrissy?
I do. So I was born a blonde and always had kind of like Tamara was talking about strawberry-ish hair, but I used to dye it more on the blonde side. And when I was 23, I was the sales manager for a local manufacturing company here, and I was in charge of the East Coast. I would go up and down and meet with all these men, and they kept calling me the pretty little blonde girl from Texas. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to work for me. So I said, red it is, because that's how I'm not going to put up with that. So, and I have plenty of family members who are redheads, so I knew it's going to look good on me. So.
Okay. And we've got Merrill is watching us live, and he said, how about Lucille Ball? Lucille Ball, her birthday is August 6th, which is also my birthday. So I see this massive identification. Anybody who sees my pre-LA photos will say, Deb, you weren't always a redhead. And this is true. I was actually born, I had light brown, blondish hair growing up. And after I moved to LA, I was in the pharmacy. It was probably the CVS, looking at hair colors. Mom wanted to switch things up, and she sees this dark auburn, and she goes, Deb, this would look really good on you. And I have been a redhead ever since. So I believe that the redhead spirit has always been in me. It just did not manifest itself as an actual redhead until like 25 years ago. Anyway, but again, I don't think it's as much about the hair color as it is the vibrance that is a running theme from each of you. And so what I'd love to hear a little bit more of your backstory. I mean, I know it because I know all of you, but what is it? What do you do, and how do you use redheadedness or the confidence superpower to really stand out? Lee?
Sure. So I'm in a unique line of work, right? I'm a career coach for screenwriters, which who knew that was a thing? I certainly didn't know that. I had some clients who were like, I was consulting with, but what's that? Because I didn't have a website. And so for me, a lot of the redheaded spirit is just about stepping into your own. stepping into who you are, whatever that is. And so there's nobody in the entertainment industry that does exactly what I do, which can be both a blessing and a curse. But I think that it's not just the industry, and it's not just the role or the job that you find yourself in. I think it's, for me, the redheaded spirit is about owning all the things that you are, because they're all there, right? So I started in the industry, nobody did what I did, and now I'm a professor with a grad program, and I'm very fortunate in that I have a job and people want to talk to me and apparently want to hear what I have to say still, which is amazing. But I think that for me, stepping into a lot of things, my redheadedness, my womanhood, my age, my gender, my everything, and kind of stepping in boldly and trying to quiet the voices that apologize and appease and explain away. That to me is a lot of the redheaded spirit. And for me, it's a journey. I'm now 52 years old. I've been on this journey for 52 years, right? Of figuring out who I am and stepping into that and owning that with all of its strangeness and uniqueness. I remember sitting with my hobby, my big love is reading books. And I remember sitting with a therapist years ago, because I'm a big believer in talk therapy, and telling that therapist, this is like 2 decades ago, about what I was reading and what I should be reading. And she was like, what is this should be reading? I'm like, well, I'm supposed to be an intellectual. I'm supposed to be smart. And therefore, I can be reading XYZ. And she was like, who cares? And so to me, the redheadedness is stepping into the who cares of it all and owning all of the things that I am. And I think that's also age, which I really appreciate.
Am I correct in thinking we're all Gen Xers? Am I accurate? You're Tamara's millennial.
You're a millennial.
As an on-camera person, I don't talk about age.
Okay.
My best friend is a millennial. She's an elder millennial, and she, I think we could award her an Xer status if she really wanted it. But I think ultimately those are the forgotten generations in which women had to really own their spot.
Right. Well, I actually took it from the sun in, because that was very 70s and 80s. But yes, it's real. And I don't mean to out anybody's age, of course. I said to someone the other day, I'm much older than you. And it turned out she was a year older than me. So you never really know. My point being, I agree with what you're saying, Lee. It's not just, it's about being a woman in this time, in this era, owning more of who we are as we get older and saying, screw it. This is my life. And as long as no one gets hurt, I'm going to do what I can to be as much me as humanly possible for the rest of the world. Tamara, how do you lean into the spirit? I know you are all of the things.
I think for me, what it is probably one of my acting teachers used to have a phrase called that he would utter in class every once in a while when someone was like, I'm just not feeling it. And he'd go, I don't care, assume the position. And it was the idea that, like, you don't have to do everything perfectly. You don't have to know exactly what it feels like or looks like yet. We'll get there. Just like get there, assume the position, take on the mantle of whatever it's going to be and jump in, and it'll figure itself out. Sometimes we work outside in, sometimes we work inside out. And so I think, some of the vibrancy and the confidence that we've all been talking about comes from a willingness to do that and to sort of embrace the unknown a little bit. I mean, echoing this theme of women at times having a tougher road. There's so many statistics about job applications and women feeling like they need to 100% or 98% meet the list of qualifications, whereas, men see it and they're like, yeah, I mean, like 64%. I don't know the real stats. I'm paraphrasing here, but there's a lot of talk about that, and the idea that no, like I'm just going to jump in and do it and I'll figure it out. And obviously we're all accomplished professionals. We take our work very seriously. And that's important. But I do think there is something to be said for saying, you know what, that's something I want. I'm gonna assume the position and have enough confidence in what I bring to it that I'll do the job or the work or learn the things that I need to do to do it well. So I would say maybe that's my redheaded take on it.
Well, I also think, and I believe this is another common theme with the four of us, we've all just kind of created our own jobs. So the way in which you pretty much, Tamara, correct me if I'm wrong, mix and match all the things that you love, and that is your career.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other thing I would say is, and Lee, this echoes a little bit of what you were talking about, the idea that we don't, I guess going into back to the category thing, we don't have to fit into a category. I mean, I was a girl who loved sci-fi and science and things like that. And I was also somebody who was very artsy. And luckily, I didn't get too much of the, oh, you're a girl, you shouldn't be doing science and math. I actually got a lot more of like, oh, you're like a theatery person. Like you're either English and theater and creative or you're math and science. Those two things can't coexist. And yet my hosting career really focuses on either science and technology and exploring that realm of things kind of in real life, or I do a lot of stuff with geeky entertainment, which is how Deb and I met, the podcast we were on. And so, you know, being able to kind of take from all of the things that I love and somehow fashion that into a career where every day I'm interested in the things that I'm doing has been a lot of fun.
And this, I was going to sidetrack real quick. Do you all remember, was it like 15 years ago when women were dressing like men? Was it only 15 years ago? Well,
listen,
right?
we had the great Diane Keaton, who was always in a suit. Yeah. You know, I still love gender bending fashion, but I think it's less gender bendy now. Taking you in a different direction. I don't know how many of you guys remember when Brave came out. I got the curls, so I heard about it a lot. But what I love about that is that Brave, her name in the movie was Merida. In Hebrew, Merida means rebellion, which to me has always been at the heart of the redheadedness of it all.
I will second that. I've always been the divergent one, you know, a little bit of a rule breaker, always pushing back. I got in lots of conversations. My teachers would have said arguments, but conversations with teachers, because I was always, well, why is that? Why is that? Why is that? And so yes, definitely a little bit rebellious.
Maybe this is where being a strawberry blonde comes in. But what I will say is that, so my rebellion came in the form of the gloss of doing what I was told. In other words, when I was in school, if you got good grades and if, you know, you put on a good show for the teachers, nobody knew that you were doing the stuff that you weren't supposed to be doing. So you could get away with a lot of quiet rebellion that nobody ever knew about.
See, I was always with a like unruly curly hair. Like all I ever wanted as a teenager was a slick back ponytail that would stay in one place. That was all I wanted. And then a boy told me when I was 14 that guys don't like girls who have curly hair. So, you know, that's going to mess you up for a while. So there was always this like, well, this is what you're stuck with. So go nuts.
I heard that about short hair. Same thing. Guys like long hair. Well, guess what? I'm lazy. I like short hair. Short hair likes me. I don't know how you do it, Chrissy.
I tried short hair, and my hair, I thought, was straight, like straight as a board. Not until I cut it. When I cut it, it was like, ding! And
you could be Lee's twin.
It's not cute. Yeah. So long hair it is.
Okay, so is your answer rebellion to how you embrace that redhead spirit, or did you have more to add to that?
It's more on a divergent. Like, I'm going to make my own path, and I'm going to break the rules that need to be broken. So not rebellion as in mean-spirited, but definitely Like limits in our household were not a thing. Like, especially with having a special needs daughter, we were like, no, you can do it. You'll figure it out. You'll do it differently, but you can figure it out. So yeah, divergent would be closer.
Got it. Making your own path. I like it. Well, but even now, I mean, the things that we're doing did not exist when I was in school. Social media, what? It is really, I mean, even this, and this is something else I find hilarious. I was a broadcast major for a bit in college, and I was a DJ. They were letting sophomores have slots, and I was absolutely terrible on the radio. And the fact that I now have 3.5 podcasts and talking is my happy place is amazing. But it's like the evolution. This is something that I always loved to do. The fact that it circled back around. So what is something from, what is a recurring theme, and it could be confidence, it can be discovery, creativity. What is something that you do now that there was foreshadowing of earlier on? Lee, you're the only one who's not thinking, so I think you have the answer.
I mean, turns out I'm speaking before I'm thinking way too often in my life. What is it that I do now that I think for my 20s and my 30s, I very much tried to find my place. But if you go back to my childhood, and because I grew up with hippie parents whose entire philosophy of parenting is water the flower and watch it grow. I'm doing a lot of my own planting. And I think a lot of it actually is a credit to my husband, who always loved me exactly as I was and never tried to push me in a direction or tell me that I should be something, that allowed me to go back to the trust that I had in myself before a boy told me that boys didn't like girls with curly hair, or before I thought that I should be anything different than what I was becoming, especially as a young woman in the world. So I think that I stepped into this world when I started coaching a million years ago, and I hope you'll forgive me if I curse. My big question, I started coaching, I took my business public in 2012. My big question was, who the fuck am I? Like, why would anybody want to, who the fuck am I? And I remember I launched my business and I literally ran out of the house and went to the movies, had a nervous breakdown in the middle of the movie of what did I just do? And when I came home, there was a Facebook thread about, oh my God, you guys, Lee Jessup just launched her business. And she's working one-on-one with writers, which again, I was like, wait, what? Okay. But I think that I stepped into a lot more confidence as I grew up and as I grew into myself and trusting myself. And the flip side of that is just not being willing to dismiss myself and my own opinions and what I have to say. Well, I will forever couch it as my opinion. And what the knowledge that I've gathered is all based on a lot of research and observation. I think that now I've stepped into a lot more of kind of owning my opinions and not needing to apologize for them, excuse them, kind of kowtow to somebody else's opinion, dismiss them. So I think that that's something that I had in my childhood as a redhead that I've definitely stepped into as, a Gen Xer.
Love it. And I will add, so we saw each other at the Screenwriting 360 conference in LA. That Zach Gooten, who we both knew from the Script Magazine days. And I remember you were moderating a panel and they were talking about snake oil salesmen, and you need to be real careful about what you do, except for Lee. Lee, be careful about who you hire, except for Lee. I'm
very lucky. I made very good friends over the years who've been very kind and generous to me. But I think that when you do anything genuinely, and when your heart is in it, and, much like Chrissy building your brand management business, and Tamara, everything that you do, When you step into it genuinely out of genuine interest and you come up with people in your industry and neighboring industries, and you do it together, you end up having a lot of people that will vouch for you not being a snake oil salesman. So, there's that.
You done good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. For me, I think it's the divergent aspect that was quite evident as a young child. And then I remember my dad took me to work with him on Take Your Daughter to Work Day. And so this was back in the early 90s. And I remember going, yeah, I'm not doing this, because he went to a corporate office and I was like, no, I'm going to work for myself and I'm going to build a company. And my dad was like, that's not how it's done. You go to college and then you go get a job and you stay at that job until you retire. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And I didn't do that. I did go to college, but I did not go corporate.
And look what it did for you. It enabled you to be 100% you. I had that same, my father up and down, Deb, you need a business degree. You're never going to get anywhere in life without a business degree. Journalism degree, worked in business. Take that. So there you go.
Listen, my father, when I became a professor, my father was like, oh, okay. My father's a film producer, was a film producer many, many years, retired. But for years, he was like, what you do is not a job. And I was like, how's it not a job? He was like, well, it's not a job. It's not like architecture or doctor. I was like, I'm sorry, you went to film school in Europe and dropped out after a semester. When I became a professor, he was like, okay, I get, and this is my hippie father, mind you. This is not my scholarly father who had issues. This is my hippy dippy father who was like, what you do is not a job because you invented it, and therefore it can't be a job because you invented it. I was like, I agree with you, and here we are.
Yeah, parents, I mean, they're funny. Like, I'll never forget when the first time my dad came to visit me at school, and he sat in on my acting class, and, my teacher very kindly just kind of like let him lurk in the back, and, my sophomore year, and, I don't know, we were probably doing the Greeks or something, or some funky exercise. And, like you do when you're in theater school. And I remember leaving TI, the theater building, and walking out into like the Chicago sunshine, and he was really quiet, and I was like, what's going on? And finally kind of looked at me and he said, okay, so what you're really learning in there is how to listen to other people, how to notice things, how to gauge where people are at, what's understanding the context and the situation you're in, and understanding words that might be in front of you. I said, yeah. He goes, all right, you can use that in any job. I'm good.
I love that.
Okay. All right. I mean, he's not wrong, actually, which is,
no,
that's a great education, but yeah.
It's very astute. And I mentioned, my father had all these ideas about me. My mother, beloved artist, clearly the bigger influence in my life, the one who always said, follow your passion, and meant it, because this is the other recurring theme. We all have gifts. We've leaned into them, and we've created careers that maybe didn't exist outside of us doing them. Why not? We get to be trailblazers. And I kind of feel like we talk about the inner redhead. You do not have to be a redhead to have an inner redhead. I feel like the people that I am drawn to the most are the ones that say, okay, I'm living my life. I'm sharing what I know so other people's lives can be better, which is inform, entertain, educate. I mean, my made up job, which I love, the book proposal expert, is helping people take that information and putting it in a way they can sell it. And I've never heard of that before. I'm like, because I'm the only one who has claimed that this is what I do because I love it and do it well. What do you, and I want to circle back because I don't know that Tamara, did you fully embrace the flashback from youth?
No, I don't think I did. I forgot. we went on a tangent. All right, so pulling the tangent back.
Big surprise.
I think I would say for me, what kind of bubbles up is a genuine curiosity about things and people that's kind of always been there. And when I was a kid, I wanted to, if they'd ask you the question, like, what superpower do you want? And mine was always, I want to be a mind reader. I want to know what people are thinking. I want to know what's going on in there. And I don't know that I still have that same wish. Sometimes I think maybe it's better we don't know. But that said, at the time I did. And I think in some ways, that's what fueled some of the acting that I did, because as an actor, you get to decide what the person is thinking. I think it fuels the work that I do writing live events, because so much of that work is working with other speakers and trying to help them get what's inside of their head out into words that they can then deliver comfortably. And I think it's, and I'm sure, Deb, you can probably relate to this, like as a host, I get to ask people about what they're thinking all the time. And so for me, being able to ride that curiosity into different places and spaces and different subjects and topics is something that's probably been consistent. And did we lose her?
We might have lost her, but now we got her.
Okay. Was it something I said? So I think for me, the curiosity has probably been a through line, and not being afraid to say, hey, what do you think of this? Or what is this? My husband has a saying, like, and actually I think this comes from his dad, which is like, don't ask a question unless you're actually okay with getting an answer that may or may not fit what you want that answer to be. But for me, that's always kind of been the exciting thing.
I love it. And yes, if you blinked, and I'm a hardline, so I have no idea what's going on with the internet in West LA, but luckily you all.
It's too much redhead for one podcast to handle.
Love that.
Yeah, I love that you said the curiosity aspect, because I feel like that's something all of us have. I was a writer as a kid all the way up, and now, I still write stuff and write books, and I've loved books, but I think that curiosity is something we all share too.
Now I want to know what everybody's reading right now.
What is everybody reading right now?
I feel like we're all readers on here. I want to know what you're all reading.
I actually just got an advanced copy of this really awesome book that I'm excited about. It blends quantum physics and faith. So I'm really interested to dive into that one.
Who's the author? Do you know?
Dr. Bill Clark. And he got the foreword written by Joey Vitale.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm really stoked.
What about you, Lee? Read any good books lately?
Yeah, I just finished The Ghostwriter that I really liked. Before that, I read Gray After Dark that I loved. And right now I'm reading Charlie Donnelly's latest book. I'm a big thriller, suspense, dark space reader. So I read voraciously. I try to read about a book a week.
That's amazing. I'm very jealous.
It's, honestly, it was one of those things. My son has a business, and he's 19, and he has a very successful business, and amazing, thrilling. Don't know how he did it, but sure. And at the end of the year, he was like, Mom, what's your goal for the year? And I was like, my goal is to read 2 books a month. And he was like, that's your goal? I was like, yes. He was like, the business and work. And I was like, I'm really good with the business and work and all of that. It's the reading 2 books a month that I'm really bad at. So 2 books a month became a book a week because I'm an overachiever. But it's actually like, it's that finding that space that's for me and just for me and gives me joy and peace of mind in the crazy world we live in, that I find to be really important and really grounding.
Awesome. And
what are you reading, Deb?
Well, I was going to ask Tamara what she is reading.
Okay, I can go. What am I reading? Recent reads, I guess. Well, I've fully gone down the heated rivalry rabbit hole, so we'll just put that in its own category. And then There's a book called Atmosphere by Taylor Reed Jenkins, which came out, which is about female astronauts. And that's something I'm kind of generally obsessed with. So I recently read that. And if that subject matter at all intrigues people, I didn't read this recently, but there's a book that's all about the Mercury 13, which was basically the secret astronaut training program for women that was occurring simultaneously while they were training for the Mercury missions. And they were never allowed to go, but it's fascinating. So yeah, that's what I would put out there right now.
Okay, and now I have to answer. Well, I have lately been reading this cookbook book proposal that is going to be done this week. So I've pretty much been obsessed with my client work lately. One book that I read, so in 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting, I interviewed 60 achievers in business, tech, entertainment, and a lot of the people who I interviewed have great books, but one of them is Arthur Smith, and he's the one who brought Hell's Kitchen to America. And his book is called Reach. And it's all those stuff that I talk about. It's like, and it's very redheaded, to bring it back to what we're talking about, it's why not go for the biggest brass ring? Why not reach further than you think is possible? Because, it's the whole reach for the stars, at least you'll get the moon, or reach for the moon, at least whatever. I'm completely mutilating it because I can't remember which come first, the moon or the stars. But the point being is we're on the planet for a reason, and we can't we can't help other people if we're not out doing the best we can to get our ideas out in front of other people. So I like that. I also like food mysteries. I am looking for another good food mystery series. So recommendations are welcome.
Do you like supernatural stuff at all?
I'd love to say yes, but sometimes.
I'll give you something. You can read the jacket and then you can decide if you want to go further. One of the books that I read last year that I really enjoyed, it was called Aftertaste. And it's basically about this idea that, it delves into like supernatural stuff with sixth senses, but the sixth sense in particular of the main character is that he can bring back the dead through tasting a meaningful meal.
So okay, I can get behind that.
So like if you had, let's just say you had, a meal that you shared with a great-grandparent and you never got to tell them that you love them or whatever, they died unexpectedly, he can kind of conjure that and then create the meal and then serve the meal to you, and the ghost comes and you have your...
Okay. I'm going to try this. This is, well, I make chicken.
It also happens to be a love letter to New York and different culinary neighborhoods. So there's that too, which is really fun to read if you're a foodie, which you are. So.
Which I am. Well, I make chicken soup at least once a month because then mom comes to visit. We make chicken soup together. So I can definitely get behind that one. So I will check it out. Thank you. I am so glad you asked the question, Tamara, because now I've got a very Deb-centric book that I can read. I love the culinary mysteries, but at least the ones that I've read have gotten to the point where it's a story based around a recipe and there is absolutely nothing suspenseful. So I will try Aftertaste because this will be my reward for getting this shipped off to our agent. So there you go. Anyway, we do have some people listening live, including, so we've got Jay and Meryl, and we also had Melissa, who is outing herself as a Quahazi redhead. So thank you for speaking loud and proud, and Kimberly, Lisa are here as well. I think the spirit of the redheadedness, everybody should want that fire, that energy. What drives each of you to keep doing more, better for others? What do you think is the essence of that?
Do you mean specifically for others or like drive in general, or both?
Either or, multiple choice. Jump on in.
Listen, I have a 19-year-old who strives to be his best self. And I think that for my children and for me, I have a Russian friend who always says that life is cruel but short. And she is not wrong, but knowing that, you want to make it all count, right? At the end of the day, you want it to have meaning. You want it to have meaning for you. You want it to have meaning for the people around you. You want to contribute to goodness. You want to ultimately make the world and the lives of the people that you care about and that you come in contact with better, not worse. So I think all of those are driving factors for me every day. And I think it's that for most of us. I don't think I'm unique to that.
Well, it is better to make the world better than worse. I mean, if you're not, right? I mean, the least you can, if you're not making the world better, the least you can do is get out of the way for those who are.
Absolutely.
You would think so. You would think so.
You would think so. We are aspirational here on GoalChat.
And you would hope so. We'll see
what I love that. And I would say, for me, it's very similar. I lost my sense of worth in my late 20s, really, because of a traumatic event. And it took me a long time to get it back. And my why is to help younger women not take that long to get their sense of worth back. And so my belief statement is, I believe women should embrace their worth and confidently pursue the success they desire. And I just repeat that over and over.
I love that.
I do too. I feel, well, the D and the Deb method, my goal system is determine your mission. You can't get what you want unless you know what that is, and your goals may change, but who you are and how you view the world, that well, hopefully it doesn't. You know, we all have that, going back to the foreshadowing, we all have that drive, we all have the thing that brought us here. So why wouldn't we want to make the world better for others? I mean, we wouldn't, because we want. Yeah. Okay, Tamara, same question.
I mean, yes, and to both what Chrissy and Lee said. I think if I add to that, I was one of those kids who, so we're selling my childhood house. If anybody needs a nice house in Central Jersey, go look it up on the listing. We're selling my childhood. So my brother and I have been like unearthing some long lost gems. And he recently found some report cards of mine from like 2nd and 3rd grade, which is pretty funny. But I was one of those kids who got self-motivated, checked off like from the get-go. So that's just kind of always been something innate. I don't really know another way to be. But what I do think that I've tried to come to terms with, to acceptance with, and then to, maybe again in some of the work that I do and some of the personal relationships that I have and some of my parenting, is to let whatever that definition of success is, that the self-motivated is on a path towards, be more and more defined by what I decide it is, rather than other people deciding what that is. What matters to me as a person, as a parent, as a professional, as a creative person, as a daughter, and to have that feel like it's enough.
I am a firm believer that we all need, I know you're not supposed to use the word should, but that we all should live this life that we deserve and desire. And that's really, I started leading goal groups in Chicago. I restarted them after I moved here. But the impetus for jumping off the ledge and doing the goal thing was I would see so many people around me miserable. And I knew the goals were magic, because you can't get what you want unless you know what that is. And even if it's just a little piece of something aside from your day job, but if there's something that you love that you're working towards, that's going to make everything better, because you can take that energy and let that kind of leak in to the things that aren't making you as happy and uplift your spirit. So I am a firm, and that's why I do this. You never know who needs to hear your words, which is why I love the show, which is why I encourage people to write book proposals and get the words out in the world in a big way, because the person who needs to hear from you likely is not the person you already know. And so what we get to do, all of us who use our voice, is share these messages in hopes that it will get to somebody and they get the, okay, like they don't have to suffer like Chrissy did, or they took a while to get, they're like, oh, I can take a leap. Lead it. Tamara did. Why not? Yes. Allow this show to be your permission slip to basically say, okay, I want this life. Even if it's only a little part of your life, it could become a big part of your life. So that's something I truly believe in, that spirit, that's the thing that grows.
Listen, I think you gathered a group of women, redhead though we may be, here together today, that all were self-starters, that built including you, right? Built businesses, found their way, paved their path, which takes a leap, requires some audacity, occasionally too much of it. We can go down the wrong paths on occasion and discover that. But I think that you made the choice here to bring a group of women together who had that audacity to ultimately take trauma, take lived experience, and pave their own path to create something for themselves, which you yourself have done. So I think that's incredibly important to note.
I also think what's interesting is that all the things that we're talking about don't necessarily, like, we've all funneled a lot of this into some career choices, but I also think that realizing what this idea of what do you love, what's your passion, what's that piece of your life that you want, it doesn't necessarily have to take the form of a career or job. I'll never forget when I first moved to LA, I was working I wasn't quite a paralegal. I talked myself into working for a legal temp agency, and I don't even know. And I found myself temping for Occidental Petroleum in a very large building in Westwood, Los Angeles, looking at contracts for things that were happening in parts of the planet that I probably shouldn't know about. But what I will say is that the head, I guess now she'd probably be called a chief of staff. At that time, she was called an assistant, the head or secretary. I don't know what she was. Anyway, she ran his life. She made everything happen. She came in every morning at 7. She left every day at 4. And what I found out was that the reason she had this schedule, in addition because it fit his, was because she would leave at 4 and she went and she was a dancer, and she was a ballroom dancer. She didn't do it to make a living. She did do competitions, but like in the amateur sector, not in the professional sector. And she loved it. And it's what made her, and she had crafted this lifestyle that paid her bills. She was secure. She didn't have to worry about rent. She could send her kids off to do whatever they needed to do. And yet she had this beating heart of something that she had good friends at work. And she had this beating heart of this other thing that made her happy. And it was a really good lesson that there are a lot of different ways to live a satisfying life and to craft a life for yourself.
That is such a wonderful example. I love that. And I'm not just saying that because, so I did 2 social things in college, and one of them was ballroom dancing.
Oh, you're kidding.
The other was competitive public speaking, and they kind of tie in together because there was always a dance contest at one of the big speech tournaments. So me and my speech team friends started going to the ballroom dance classes so we can go and be ringers for the party for the forensics team. So yeah. Talk about flashbacks to youth.
Now that is a bold redheaded move to be the ballroom ringer.
Yes, thank you. That was fun. See, now I need to go out dancing, and most of us are in LA, so I feel like we need a field trip, or at least maybe Chrissy, you want to come out for a visit. The point is, these are our lives, and we get to live it, and we need to decide, okay, what brings in the happy stuff, maybe in your career, maybe your personal life. If you're lucky, it gets to be both. But Where is your spark, and how are you going to lean into it in a way that not only helps you, but lights the path for other people? Well, this is the point where I'm going to ask you each to gift a goal to the audience. So what is something anyone could do today, tomorrow, immediately to tap into it could be their adventurous spirit, their curious, their disruptive spirit, because we covered so many things. I am not going to pigeonhole you. What is something someone could do that's just going to make their life better? I'm going to start with you, Chrissy, because you've been on before. You understand the assignment, I hope. Go.
Well, it's sort of along the lines of my belief statement, but I truly believe that people can take a look at their lives, their reality, and realize that it can change to be whatever they want it to be, no matter the situation. There's never a lack of hope. So that's my quantum science side that I lean into. But yeah, I think just realizing that you do have control over your life.
Okay, so the goal is
figure out what that is that you want. And then
is take a look at your life and see what you can change to make it what you want it to be.
Yeah, and I will caveat that with, if you want your external to change, the internal is going to have to change first. So now there can be a little bit of coinciding, meaning go organize that closet that's really dirty. Like, go organize that.
Okay, I love it. What about you, Lee? What goal are you gifting?
I would say we all live very busy lives, right? There's always all the things that we have to do. I'm certainly guilty of it. I'm obsessively getting my family together for dinners. We have family dinner night twice a week, and I work 5 to 7 days a week. And there are always things that I should do, right? All the things that need doing. But I think that for me is the goal that I can gift you is to ask yourself, what are you doing just for you? What is the thing that you're doing for you that is bringing you joy, that's bringing you relief, that is bringing you satisfaction, that's energizing you? Because I find that joy begets joy, and passion begets passion. And so stepping into that question, what am I doing that's just for me, that doesn't have a direct ROI on it, that doesn't result in a home-cooked meal on the table, which is great in its own right, not taking away from it. But what are you doing just for you that nobody else is going to appreciate or have an opinion about, but that is just for you, that is going to you, that's going to drive you, and that's going to rekindle your passion for whatever it is.
I love that. And it could end up to something big, or it could just end up to joy.
Yeah.
Does
and
not
joy
matter.
More joy, or at least appetite for more of it. And that leads to discovery of where it is that you want to go and what you want your life to look like.
Absolutely. Whenever I do goal workshops, I always start with, what's your win? Because when you start with the win, you already have the endorphins, and that makes it also easier to set new goals. So.
Yeah, and culturally, we live in a world where everything needs to have a purpose, right? Everything needs to check some box or cross some line. But at the end of the day, where are we getting our joy and our fun and our passion from? Because that is going to energize our life more than anything else.
Love it. Amazing. Tamara?
I would say, I think the way I'd put it is to lean into the what if of it all. So on the podcast that I host, we talk about the real science in science fiction. And so I talk a lot about world building and story worlds, and that the job of a writer is to, or a storyteller is to build a world, to say what if, to lay out some rules, and then ideally you bring the reader or the viewer along and you follow those rules, and that's why they're willing to go on the journey with you. And I think what happens sometimes in our own lives is that first what if comes up and fear comes up, and we stop. We stop the world building, we stop the dreaming, we stop the visioning of what could be next. And I would invite people that if or when that shows up, instead lean into the what if. Okay, well, what if that worst thing did happen? What if you did fail? What if you sent out the proposal and it didn't? Well, what happens next? And then what happens next? And then what happens after that? And so don't just stop at the fear. Let yourself work through the fear to get to the other side of it by asking yourself those questions, by leaning into the just find out of it all. And then you can find a path forward. So that's the tool that I would
Nice.
share.
So
I love the fearlessness that it encourages.
Yeah, I'd like to think that what it does is it doesn't make you pretend that you don't have the fear, but it allows you to go, okay, well, what if that really horrible thing happens? Or not even the super horrible thing, but just that thing that I don't want to have happens. So then what? Okay. You make a plan, you figure it out.
You look at the roadblock and say, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. I love it. Yeah. Life is a choose your own adventure. So choose your own adventure. Go the path less taken, or climb over I was going to say rock, but a rock's not very big, but you know what I mean? This has been such a fun conversation. I love it. Something like this where I'm like, we're going to see where it goes, because the topic is so general. Who knew? But this was absolutely beautiful and inspiring. And I love all of the insights you all have shared. Where can people learn more about each of you? Tamara?
Probably the best place to keep track these days. You can find me on Instagram at Tamara Krinsky, spelled like my name. If you want to catch my podcast, Does It Fly, which is from Roddenberry Entertainment, you can find us at doesitflypod.com, or you can find us on YouTube under the same title, Does It Fly. So those are probably the first two places I would tell people to go.
Great. Love it. What about you, Lee?
You can find me on my website, leejessup.com. I also have a somewhat active YouTube channel that is under at leejessup5299, where I release regular videos about the entertainment industry and screenwriting and the business of screenwriting. So that's always a good place to connect with me.
Awesome. And Chrissy?
I'm pretty easy to find as well. I usually tell people just Google me and it'll pop up. But my first name, last name, ChrissyBernal.com. I'm really active on LinkedIn, and then on my own podcast, Finally Seen,
which I had the pleasure of being on. We had so much fun. And I am at the Deb Method everywhere. And if you go to thedebmethod.com/blog, you will get the recap. You can watch the replay. You will get the goals and the links to stay connected with me and each of my guests today. I usually put in websites and everybody's LinkedIn so we can all connect. If you want to learn more about what I do in helping people get books out of their head and out into the world, you can go to thebookproposalexpert.com. And if you need a little bit of help with the goals, grab a copy of your goal guide and or 52 secrets for goal setting and goal getting. And or you can join me every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific, where I bring in guests and we just get to hang out and we let you watch. You're welcome. And you can also subscribe to GoalChat, which is on the Marketing Podcast at your favorite place to listen to podcasts. Commercial done. Okay, friends, what final thought? I mean, we've given people a lot of great info, but let's let them out of here on like okay, great. I'm going to choose myself. I'm going to be more confident. Life is going to be better. Great. What final thought do you want to leave people with, Chrissy?
I said it earlier, but self-imposed limits are often just that, and they're self-imposed. So don't do that.
Okay, self-imposed limits are self-imposed. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it. What about you, Lee?
I'm actually going to build on what Tamara was saying because it really resonated with me. I would just ask yourself the question, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And see where that gets you to. Because for me, that was a mind blown moment many, many years ago when I launched my business. And I think it brings some truth forward, if nothing else.
And how awesome was that? You went to the movies and then you came back and were proved wrong or right?
It was amazing. It was, I mean, I was already I literally had to leave the movies because I had a nervous breakdown. Like, oh my God, we're 3 months from Christmas and my kids are not going to have Christmas presents. And we're going to move into a box on the sidewalk because that's how the story is going to end. And it became a full-time job 2 months later. So if that's possible, anything is possible.
Okay. What movie did you have the breakdown during?
I went to see Searching for Sugarman, which is a great movie. I had to see it a second time because I literally had a nervous breakdown in the middle of the movie, but fantastic film that also speaks to all the things that are possible.
Awesome. Tamara, final thought.
Final thought is a plug. Please keep going, everyone. Please keep going to theaters and seeing movies in theaters.
Amen to that.
But aside from that, just good, do that. But aside from that, the other thing I was going to say is, I'm sitting here with 3 incredibly complex, smart, interesting, layered women, and we're all very independent. Clearly, we've all forged ahead in our own things. But I guess I would also say is don't be afraid to ask for help. That's really hard for me to do. And I have had to learn, that is a lesson I keep learning over and over and over, but we don't have to do this alone. It's great that we're able to if we need to, but also there is joy in community. And sometimes the strongest thing that you can do is ask someone to help fill in when you're doing that honest assessment of this is what I need to make the thing that I want to have happen. So embrace the people around you.
Love it. Because believe it or not, friends, we're all in this together. Why wouldn't we want, wait, I'm talking in quadruple negatives again. Let me start this again. One of the things that I love about this show is bringing people together who don't know each other, unless it's on purpose. My guests have never met until right before, which was the case today. And you never know, we're great at going it alone, but you never know what magic you can create if you align yourself with other people, you bring people together and put yourself out there. And whatever your spirit is, go out there, do the things, know that anything and everything is possible and probable, and bring some friends along for the ride. Go on out there and go for it because we all know you can do it. And hopefully after this episode, you all know it too. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.